Good morning. It's Sunday, April 12th, and today we're going to be talking about a subject that perhaps many of you begun to think about over the last couple of weeks, and that relates to the prompt, which is, what's the truth about honors and riches? So while it may not be true that Bill Gates was actually the author of that infamous open letter talking about what coronavirus is really teaching us, I do think that that letter contained a wealth of information when it referred to thinking of this situation as the great corrector. It's caused many of us to rethink our position with respect to material possessions. And this was actually a very common practice for the Stoics. And unlike some of the other aesthetic philosophic schools, which it didn't promote a lifestyle of abstinence of worldly goods, of wealth, and of property. In fact, Seneca was one of the richest men in all of Rome, and Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of the entire Roman Empire. So it would have been a little bit disingenuous to take that position. Nevertheless, they relentlessly challenged people to think about material possessions in the proper context and to remember some important directions for considering our own relationship with them. So I've just noted a few here and start off with number one. The loss of all earthly possessions is inevitable. Nothing lasts forever. And I think it was Seneca who said something to the effect of how cruel it is to consider that what takes man so long to create, nature so quickly destroys. That's something that we have to remember when we consider material possessions. And then found in that open letter was number two. We are all equal regardless of culture, religion, occupation, financial situation, fame. Nature treats us all equally. So as we've seen through COVID-19, nature knows no borders. It shows no favor in terms of the impact that it causes people with respect to those considerations. Number three, not to regard anything as valuable which can be taken away. So Seneca has an interesting twist on this when he says, all my possessions are within me, referring to the qualities of a just, a good, and enlightened character. Number four, be careful that which you own does not end up owning you. Think about the material possessions you have. Do they cause you anxiety? What would happen if you lost it? We have to practice negative visualization here. This was incredibly important for the Stoics, and Seneca says, I am not, mind you, against you possessing them, but I want to ensure that you possess them without tremors. And this you will only achieve through one way, by convincing yourself that you can live a happy life even without them, and by always regarding them as being on the point of vanishing. So there's a very interesting exercise to go through, which I tried out earlier this year, which is to take your most prized material possession and get rid of it. Now, you can get rid of it for a day, for a week, indefinitely. But the point is to observe what happens when that material possession is gone. How does it impact you? How do you respond? How's your life different without that possession around you all the time? Anyways, we'll get into that on another chat. Related to that, number five, material things can be distractions, and loosening the grip on the things that you have can actually be liberating. It allows us to pay attention to the things that matter, and it allows us to have appreciation for the moment. As Seneca says, for men in a state of freedom had thatch for shelter, while slavery dwells beneath marble and gold. Number six, do not allow material objects to be part of your own identity or an expression of your self-worth. You're setting yourself up for failure here. As these things deteriorate, which they inevitably will, so too will that piece of you that's associated with them. And it's important to remember that excluding the ultimate loss, we are incredibly resilient creatures that are capable of overcoming the loss of many things. But to do that, we have to, in Marcus's words, accept things without arrogance and let go with indifference. And that brings us to the final point. And if we're brutally honest here, your most valuable possession is probably your body. But the reality is that you don't own it. It's just on loan. And it too is subject to nature's destruction. So the Stoics routinely practiced a concept called Memento Mori, which means to remember your own mortality. And rather than thinking about this as some morbid exercise, It was actually used to be inspirational, something to direct our thoughts and behaviors to leading a life more wholesome and more rewarding. And as Marcus Aurelius famously said, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. So hopefully that will encourage us to rethink the importance that we place on material goods and riches and power and redirect it to areas that are more meaningful and more sustainable. Hope you have a great day.